and James Ham. James doesn't get frustrated. He's our
You,
1320 Kings insider and created the Kings beat.
you could be an A's fan.
Well, there is that. Thank you for perspective, James. Thank you.
Perspective. What's going
Brought to you by
on?
the Kings Beat and thekingsbeat.com. James, a couple of interesting notes. Well, one in particular came out of your video with Mike Brown from the media scrum today after practice. And it was a question that I had on my notes that I wanted to run by you that Mike Brown actually answered for us. And Mike said the rotation for Sunday's game is going to be significantly less than it was this past week. When the team gets back on the floor this weekend, he even mentioned, we play 20 guys, probably not going to do that. Probably going to drop to around 15.
Yeah, I would say he said 15, maybe even a little less than that, maybe 12, 13. Yeah, I think we're going to see more of a natural rotation in the next game. We might get back to, as we get closer to the season, one more game where you start seeing a lot of bench players. But for this one in particular, I think we're going to see like a little bit more of a true rotation, what the season will look like. And I mean, Mike Brown was clear too that like the power forward spot is still wide open, that we very well could see a completely different rotation at that position come Sunday. And I kind of expect it. I expect him to dabble with other things and, to give some, maybe Kegan Murray a look, maybe give see, we got some Moneki a shot. You could give Metu a shot. You could give Trey Lyles a shot. I think we're going to see something different, though.
So you'd say giving those guys a shot, and that's fair. I understand that. Is game 3 when they start doing quote unquote just rehearsals about what I want this rotation and the guys getting in to look like for the season? Is it about game 3, or in some cases does it start as early as game 2?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be as early as game 2. We're just gonna have to see. I told you guys the other day. I think it's really interesting this preseason to have only like 5 days of practice before your first preseason game. I don't think I remember it being like this before, and then to have another like almost week off before you play again. It's kind of strange how they have breaks here early in the preseason schedule. I mean, I remember one season where we had back to backs in preseason. And when you're only playing 4 games and you have a back to back, and we're talking over like a 20-day period, that's a lot of like condensed basketball. So they're going to have time to make adjustments. We talked to KZ Okpala today, and he was really excited about the opportunity. But he knows that like whatever Mike Brown wants him to do, he's going to do, whether that's off the bench or, whether he's starting. He just knows that his job is to go out there and play defense and to give them an edge on that edge of that end of the floor. And we'll have to see how it all plays out.
What did you take away from practice and media availability today? I know you talked to Mike Brown. You mentioned KZ Okpala. You talked to Kegan Murray as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the really interesting thing Mike Brown said is that he sees the 2, 3, and 4 as almost interchangeable, which, I mean, I get a little bit because when you look at Harrison Barnes, he is a guy who goes 3 and 4. They have been playing Kegan Murray at the 3 a ton and trying to see how he plays that position. And Mike Brown said, like, look, during Summer League, we were able to watch Kegan play 2 all the way through 4s without any problem. And he did a really good job against young players at the Summer League level. But once you get to the like pro level, the game day level, it's much different. Like defending 3 positions like that isn't going to be just something you just snap your finger and you can do. Keegan's going to have to do a lot of work on his body in order to play the 3 for major minutes, and certainly, to play the 2, that's going to be really, really difficult. We'll just have to, again, see how he grows into the position. I think for Kegan, too, he just has this strange ability to walk in and be comfortable. And I don't think it's something that we've seen before. I don't remember another rookie who just walks in, and there's a confidence to him, but it's even more than that. It's not like he's overly confident and just this guy who talks himself up the whole time. He just seems like relaxed and like, all right, I guess I'm going to go play against LeBron James. And you're just like, aren't you getting nervous? Well, not really. I'm just, going out there and playing basketball. And I think that that's a really interesting feature to him where he just feels like he's ready and he doesn't get overwhelmed at all. And we saw him go from, the college game where he didn't look overwhelmed to the California Classic, which is kind of a dumbed down summer league. And he didn't look overwhelmed. Summer league, he dominates. And now you get to the preseason, and in his first game, he puts up 16-6, and he just looks like one of the better players on the court. And there's just something about him that's different in that way. And I think that's a very good thing for the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah, like I said, he's a flat out baller. That's what he does. That's what ballers do. It doesn't matter, and I understand why people get caught up on that, but you can't play this guy with this guy. And, if you do this, then you won't have this and all this other stuff. I said last week, man, the ballers, they find a way to get it done. And that's what Kegan is, man. You put him anywhere on the court, he's going to figure out a way to be productive and figure out what the team needs and give the team what they need. That's a great trait to have in your prize rookie. Now, with that being said, James, I do want to ask you this. Do you think that maybe they're doing a little bit much with if we need to, he can play the two. Like, do you think let's get him comfortable with the 4 first or the 3? Like, let's not experiment and just do too much just because we can, just because we know he's that versatile out there. We talk about defining roles, right? Your role is in this area right here. 3, 4, like, focus on that. You think they're doing too much when they even think about experimenting with the 2, or is it just fine? Can he handle it all?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think he can handle it all. That's what you're kind of learning about him. Now, I don't think he's going to walk out there and ever be in a lineup where he's like a shooting guard, like in the lineup. I think what Mike Brown really means in that situation is that he can switch out and he can go defend a 2. He can defend a 3. He can defend a 4. It just will depend on matchups and how he gets switched out and rotations and stuff like that. But I don't think we're going to see like a true situation where that's his job to go out there and run the 2. I mean, the Kings have like 17 other shooting guards and on this roster, or guys that can play the shooting guard position. And I would put Keegan Murray like really low on the group that would actually do that. I do think it's really interesting that we're seeing him not only be play the small forward with that second unit, with Trey Lyles playing the 4, he's playing the 3 in the second unit, and Rashawn Holmes at the 5. But I think it's really interesting that we're seeing the team run the ball through him, because that's not something he did at Iowa at all. And it's kind of like, hey man, do you think you can like be a primary like ball handler, and do you think we can run the ball through you and you can be a distributor? Yeah, okay. That's what it kind of feels like with Keegan Murray. It's just like, okay, whatever. I'm good. Like, you want me to start? That's fine. You want me to win the MVP? That's fine. You want me to win the Rookie of the Year? Okay, I'll get you in the running. Like, it just feels like he's just easy to talk to, easy to like, he takes whatever it is you're asking him to do. I mean, he's monotone, so a lot of times you're waiting for like that excitement from him, and he shows a little bit with his like emotions on his face, but it's usually just pretty cut and dry. Like, okay, yeah, I'm ready. It's fine. Just whatever. It's LeBron James. It's kind of what I'm looking forward to, playing against players like LeBron. That's cool. And he's on to the next subject. And yeah, I don't think that there is anything that can kind of phase him. And we'll see how opening night is. But after that, I think he's going to be pretty strong. Pretty strong rotational piece for the next decade plus in Sacramento.
How much of that is, or do you think, is just Keegan's personality, and that's the way he would be no matter what? Or how much, like, does it factor in at all that he's kind of coming in here and he doesn't have to be the savior of the franchise? Like, he doesn't have to be the guy. He has to fit in with a team. Therefore, that allows him to be a little bit more, yeah, I'm down for whatever y'all want. I'm cool. Let's do it.
I kind of want to test that theory, you know? Like, I do. Like, hey, we need you to be a star. Okay. I guess I'm a star today. That's what it kind of feels like with him. I really do. It's an interesting thing. Like, we talked about this in pre-draft. We talked about this after the Kings selected him. Like, look, you can't really know what a player is going to be like until they get into the league. Like there are some guys that you look at and you're like, oh man, like Victor Wembanyama. Like I don't think there's any way that he's not going to be like spectacular. That you just watch him, and you got the same with LeBron. Like there's no way LeBron's not just going to be incredible. Where a guy like Giannis was taken the 15th pick, 16th pick. Like there were question marks as to how good he would be. Even Kobe Bryant. Kobe lasted until the 13th pick in the draft. And so when some players, that they're going to be like absolutely spectacular when they walk into the gym. I think like with Kegan, like we just assume that he's going to be a really solid NBA player. He's going to walk out there. He's going to like feel comfortable and be strong in his role. But it's not until you really see it functioning that you can make a decision on just what kind of ceiling they have. We can say, okay, like, look, like physically speaking, Keegan Murray could have some limitations at some point because he's not a guy who jumps out of the gym. He's not a guy who is so incredible laterally that, he can stop anybody, but he can also get around anybody. Like those are things where you're looking for him to just be like this. It's what separates him from, a guy who may go number one overall. It's that you can see like some sort of physical limitations, but you can never measure a guy's like heart or his want or his like, even like in this situation, how comfortable someone gets so quickly. You can't measure that. And so when I compare him to somebody and people cringe when I say like Marvin Williams, I'll just continue to tell you, like physically speaking, he moves, like a lot of his body motions, a lot of the way that he on the court flies around, it still reminds me of that. But the difference is that he may want it more. He may just have this switch in him that like makes him comfortable and he gets it. And that can make him a much better player than the players, anyone that you want to compare him to. How many guys, like, it's not like we haven't ever seen, again, a Giannis body style. I mean, maybe it's a little unique, but it's not that much more unique than like Kevin Garnett or Stromile Swift. And so you start looking at guys with like the same body style, but one of them ends up being this unbelievable superstar. One of them ends up being a Hall of Famer, and another one is out of the league in 3 years or 5 years, and it doesn't work. So you really can't like put something on a player until he gets in the league and you see how it really does like translate.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see him grow, man, because if he's like this now, and I was guilty, like other people, was like kind of putting a cap on what he could be coming into the draft. But when you see him play, and we get an opportunity to have seen every game he's played on a professional level so far, so we got a little bit more of an understanding. But you realize like his ceiling is a lot higher than maybe we all thought it was. Like you look at him now, and let's just say he averaged 14, 15 points a game this year. We look at it, that's who he's going to be. He's going to be around 15, 16 points, 17 points a game for his career. That's what we thought coming in. Now I want to see where he can get to because he is dynamic as a scorer and he does understand how to play different spots on the floor and get different shooting, different looks on the floor in different parts of his game, right? So I want to see how he grows. I want to see what that turns into. Man, that's exciting to see as a Kings fan where you have a guy who, I'm not afraid to say it, he could be a all-star type player with what he's already shown right now. I think in a perfect scenario he can get there, right? But I want to see where he's at 3 years from now because it could be something really special.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, he's the number 4 pick in the draft. I mean, he should be really good. We just never know how good they're going to be. You never know. And people say, oh, well, this guy went this high or, but there are players that you miss on all the time. I mean, Chris Middleton was a 2nd-round pick. Draymond Green, 2nd-round pick. I mean, these are all-stars and game changers. I mean, they're really, really good players. So what you're trying to do, though, is you're trying to limit the risk when you're selecting this high. And I think the Kings got a guy who, no matter what, like his floor is so high that he's going to at least be a really good NBA player for a long time. Whether it's an all-star or whether it's, just a starter for, 12, 15 years, or, we just start at a decade, barring injury. But, you already know that that's who he's going to be. He's going to be a really good player. Now, if he wants to reach that all-star status, there are things he's going to have to do to get there. And, we have to see, how is he as a worker? How does he redefine his body every time? Can he become better laterally and better athletically? Can he become a better ball handler? And so these are things that you're hoping to see as he grows as a player. But just the basic stripped down model of Keegan Murray, it's just a really good player, and he's going to be solid no matter what. And I think we're all along for the ride. We want to see where he ends up. I'm not going to say he's going to be a 27 point per game scorer or something, but I'm not going to. I mean, I would expect that 18 to 20 is within grasp for his whole career. And then what can he do outside of that? Like, how much better can he be?
We got Kings tickets your way for opening night coming up here in just a heartbeat. Did you see anything from Kegan the other night defensively, either exciting or concerning from him?
No, I mean, I thought that the whole team was pretty good. They flew around the ball pretty well. I thought that for a group that hasn't been together, and the fact that they played 20 guys, we saw some good energy. The energy sustained throughout the game. Overall, again, I think Kegan, down the road, there's a possibility to go from the 4 to the 3 at a more permanent basis as he, kind of figures out his body at the NBA level with a NBA training staff. But still, I think he still moves and feels more like a 4. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. Monty McNair said on opening, when they drafted him, that he thought he's more of a 4 than he is a 3. At least right now. And I think that that's kind of where we still look at him. But I mean, he just didn't look overwhelmed against great players, which is good. And so I kind of want to see how he grows. And I really liked, at the end of the second quarter, I like when Mike Brown went to what a lot of us think should be the starting lineup, with Kegan at the 4, Fox, Herter, Barnes, Sabonis. And I liked how he kind of ran that. Again, I liked how he handled the ball as a primary distributor. He found some guys that I didn't think he would be able to find. But again, he told us early on, he's working from the high post. He's been doing a lot of sort of that major cog offensive player with the second unit. He's an interesting cat. That's for sure.
Casey, let's give away some tickets here real quick. Opening night, the Sacramento Kings at the Golden One Center. We've got you taken care of right now. Caller number 3, 916-909-1320. Again, caller number 3, 916-909-1320. We'll have a pair of tickets for you today. And because we can't be with you tomorrow, we'll have 2 pair on Friday. So 2 more opportunities for you to be a part of opening night at the Golden One Center. Casey, go ahead.
I was just going to ask James, we talked a lot about defense and the way they came out playing on the defensive end yesterday. What do you think the offense looked like? I know that's something that also is going to take a little time because you got a new system and new coach. And, while there are, guys who do things already as far as Sabonis' passing, Fox's speed and quickness, all this other stuff, to learn an offense with a new group of guys, that may take a little time. So, what did you think of the offense that you saw in that first preseason game?
Yeah, I thought it was clunky. I didn't think it looked great, and I think that they need a lot of work on that end. I wanted to see more 2-man game with Fox and Sabonis. I wanted to see the ball run through Sabonis more. Overall, this team really does have this issue that when Sabonis goes off the floor, the offense has to make some massive adjustments because he is such a center of the universe type player. And I wanted to see Fox come out and flash the speed and the quickness early in the game. I don't think anyone wants to wait 10 to 12 games into the season to see it from him. And I don't think anyone wants to wait the first quarter to get it done. Go out there and be who you're going to be early on. Outside of that, I like some of the things I saw from Herter. the off the ball movement. I thought he was good with the ball and creating. I like that the second unit we saw lobs to Rashawn Holmes from both Malik Monk and Keegan Murray. And I like that even though Monk didn't really hit his shots, that he was all over the court. And I thought another thing I'll point out too is last season, towards the end of the season, there was this crazy thing that happened where anybody who grabbed a rebound was allowed to run up the court with it. And they haven't taken that away, which I thought was really cool to watch because it makes this team fun and exciting if you have everyone pushing up the court. And, we saw everyone from KZ Okpala. It didn't matter who grabbed the rebound or who got the ball. They all started pushing it up the court. And that's a good thing because I think this team needs to play with tempo.
You mentioned Rashawn. His play encourage you at all?
Yeah, I thought he was a little off part of the game. I don't know what's happened, but it feels like the push shot has gone away. Like we haven't seen the push shot in a long time. And I felt that during last season. Like, hey, where's the push shot?
You got you got those Charles Barkley yips. Uh-oh. Oh, that was close, James. That was 2.5 seconds. That is an unofficial freeze right there. That does not count. That is an unofficial freeze.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't. I hope he doesn't get the yips, and I hope that they find ways to get him open. I think that they went away from so many of the things that made him effective. Even like the Fox used to do a move where he would drive straight to the basket and drop it behind him to Rashawn Holmes at the free throw line. And that's where he would, maybe take a step in and do his little push shot. I just want to see more of it. I think he's a very good offensive weapon. We've talked about this before. Like Fox, probably, 23 to 25 points a game. I think Sabonis will be around 20 points a game. And then we talked about, there's going to be like 4 other guys that could be around 15. And that being Keegan Murray, Herter, Monk, and Harrison Barnes. And then you get these other 2 guys in Rashawn Holmes and Davion Mitchell, both who, can go for 12 to 14 points per game. And so, again, I don't think the offense will be an issue once we get to the regular season and you start to see standard rotations. At least I hope not, because, again, I think people need to be reminded again and again. This team was like number 9 in offensive rating 2 years ago under Walton, and they were number 25 last year. They were bad offensively. As bad as they were defensively, they were only 2 spots ahead in offense. And, it's not good. You're not going to make the playoffs and you're not going to win games if you finish 27th in defensive rating and 25th in offensive rating.
Yeah, I agree. I'm excited to see Rashawn Holmes in that role. I've said for a number of different times, man, I think this is a role that he's perfect for. This big coming off the bench, rim runner, energy. And I think there's going to be a number of different games where what he provides in the second quarter or late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter is going to win the Kings some games. We'll look back. We'll come on D-Lo and Casey the next day. We'll be talking to Ham at about 3:00. And they'll be like, man, Rashawn Holmes was probably the player of the game last night with what he provided. I think he's going to flourish in a major way back in this role.
Yeah, it's those nights where he goes like 9 of 11 from the field and gets a 20 and 8 or a 20 and 10. He's got that potential even off the bench, and it's just him finding some sort of chemistry with the guards, because that's the one thing I'll point out. I don't think the Kings still have a natural lob guy to go with him, and that really does take away a big part of his game, like the vertical game. And so, like, I hope that it works out and that he is able to find those seams. But it's guys like Monk and Mitchell that really have to put a focus on the lob and getting the ball to him. And even Kegan, I think we're going to see a lot of that, like the secondary creator with Keegan Murray taking over for Sabonis for stretches and seeing if he can open things up for Rashawn Holmes as well.
James Ham, 1320 Kings Insider with us. We'll come back. We'll talk a lot more about the Sacramento Kings. They were back at practice today. They've got a game coming up this weekend. You mentioned talking to KZ Okpala. Kind of want to get your feel on, are we looking at this starting lineup again on Sunday? We'll talk to all of these. We'll talk about all of these things with James Ham when we return here on Sacramento Sports Leaders, D-Lo and KC on ESPN 1320. Clear.
You're right there, Casey.
Dude, Rowdy, man. I almost fell out. He said, any second now, you can't even see him.
I can duck out and pop right back in.
No,
Yeah,
you're fine. You are crystal clear right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
You are in 4K.
There's like a 5-second moment where it got fuzzy. And Rowdy was
Pixelated
just on the
fuzzy,
edge
yeah.
of his seat just waiting.
The funny thing is, that's not when Ham freezes. Ham freezes when he's in 4K, and it just like stops, and then it comes back.
Random. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I know, like, I can usually you guys look fine, and then every once in a while I'll see you guys get pixelated, and then like when I freeze, I know because both of you guys stop moving on my end, and I'm like, oh, yeah. It's not my fault. The Wi-Fi up here doesn't matter. Like I'm at like 400, 500 speed at all times. It just drops. That's the problem. It just like decides when it wants to drop.
Said it before, and I'll say it again. It's funny.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. It's fine. It's funny more than anything else.
Have either of you guys ever been to a Cal Bears, the University of California football game?
Yes, my wife went to Cal.
Yeah.
And I went to,
It's actually pretty cool. I only been to one, but just like
yeah.
it's not fun like to park. Like there's not a lot of parking, but just like walking up and you're walking through a neighborhood and then all of a sudden, oh, there's a stadium, and it's actually pretty cool. They showed a commercial for it. I was like, yeah. That's
When
cool.
I lived in Berkeley, I lived at the top of the Berkeley Hills. So if you're behind the stadium and go up the street behind the stadium, that takes you to Tilden Park and like I think the Lawrence Hall of Science or whatever. But I lived on Panoramic, which is right, like if you go down around the one end of the stadium, and then it starts going like switchbacks all the way down to like campus. My street was right there, and it took you back up to the top of the hills. And me and my wife had like this little tiny bungalow that overlooked all of the bay. It was pretty incredible.
Wow.
It was weird though. We had like 96 steps up to our house, and it was like a 13 by 13 studio. Our kitchen was like you could take like 2 steps into it, and then that was it. And then like it was only like 3 feet wide and 3 feet deep. Yeah.
Yeah, well, W, that's the one thing I do remember is the parking was crazy.
Yeah.
Like it was non-existent. So
Hang on. We got to hear this. This is important. Hang on. Get rid of this. Come on. What's happening? Let's go.
Salut à tous, je vous présente Steve Oyufat, Lao Konaté.
It's Steve Ho You Fat. Okay. Just want to make sure that's his name. Steve Ho You Fat.
Steve. There's like a couple extra E's in there.
Steve Ho You
Why shake it? What am I Hubble bragging about? We lived in we had a 13 by 13 studio in Berkeley Hills. Like, I don't what. That's not a humble brag. And it was weird. A tree fell on our house one time while we were taking a nap. Landed right.
really?
Yeah. If we didn't have a cinder block wall, it would have killed us.
Good Lord.
Yeah. It was a pretty wild place. I did not enjoy my time in Berkeley.
I would always go to my time in Berkeley would be what's the main street there with all
Shattuck.
No, it's something else. It's with all the restaurants and
Yeah, Shattuck.
that's what it is. I thought it was something else. I used to always go to Rasputin over there. Is that where Rasputin is?
Oh, that's Telegraph.
Telegraph.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of my time. Whenever
Shattuck is the one that runs across the bottom of campus. Telegraph is halfway up campus on the right. Yeah. And that's a bit crazy.
they had a nice little pizza spot that I'd go to over there too.
Slice, pizza by the slice. Yeah.
Yeah.
$1.50. That's that's what it was
That's what I'm talking about.
for a gigantic slice of pizza.
You see, Costco said they will not raise their $1.50 hot dog and soda combo, even though everything else is going up in Costco.
Saw that. We're coming back, guys. Hang on. Live on the Odyssey app, live on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter as well. Friendly reminder for those listening on 98.5 FM HD2, for those listening on 1320 or the Odyssey app, we will not be with you tomorrow. Our show has been preempted, but we will be back with you on Friday with James, with Trista, with Kyle, with a very, very busy show headed into the weekend with 49ers football and Kings basketball. And James, you came from practice earlier. You mentioned talking to KZ Okpala, and he was excited about the opportunity he had. And the question I have for you, was there any hint as to whether that opportunity is going to be there for him again on Sunday when the Kings take the floor?
We talked to Mike Brown, and I kind of got the impression that Mike Brown they're still making a decision on that position, and that we could very well see something different when the Kings take the floor on Sunday. And it wasn't that KZ did something wrong or anything else. I think it's just that they're trying a few things and they want to see how it looks. And, that's what preseason is for. You need to try it against other teams and see if it's actually going to function. There's always going to be the problem. I'll keep pointing this out. Like, KZ Okpala averaged like 19 points a game at Stanford, and he just hasn't had an opportunity to score in his 3 years in the league. He said he's done it a couple of times, and so, yeah, he can score. But in order for this thing to work, KZ has to be able to hit the three ball, and he's got to be able to make sharp cuts. And I think Mike Brown did make the point that he thought, like, KZ made some nice cuts that either led to baskets, one basket for him, or opportunities for his teammates, because anytime someone makes a really strong cut and Sabonis has a ball, it tightens up the defense and opens the spacing on the outside. Mm-hmm. You just can't have everybody cutting. I think we're going to have to see if they really feel comfortable with that spot. But again, I think we could see Chima Moneke get an opportunity in the starting five. I think we could see Kegan get that opportunity. We're just going to have to wait and see what Mike Brown kind of feels. And I think he's probably got a good idea of how he wants to ramp up over the next 3 games. But, in order for KZ to be there, he's got to be able to do a lot more than just play defense.
Do you think KZ, and it's only one preseason game, I get that, but do you think he kind of established himself as being in the rotation just in general? It may not be starting or whatever the case may be, but do you think he's one of the 10 guys that's going to get consistent minutes in this rotation moving forward?
It's an interesting question. To be honest with you, I don't know. Like, when I first started covering the league, it was with Paul Westphal. And I know people used to freak out because one game a guy would start, and then the next game it wouldn't be his backup that got the start. It would be someone else that was out of the rotation that got the start, and that starter would go to the bench and not play at all. And people are always confused by it. And Paul would always say, like, look, first of all, you never start your best 6, which he knew because he spent a lot of his time in the league, even though he made the Hall of Fame, coming off the bench, right? Mm-hmm. So he said you never start your best 5 players, but also if there's a guy that really like starts playing well in his role off the bench, like, he may not look the same when you put him with the starters. So if he's doing well in that role, leave him in that role and swap somebody else out. It might mean an expanded role for somebody off the bench. So if somebody's playing really well in 18 minutes a night and the starter's playing, 28, and you want to switch out the starters, you may change the calculus on, who's playing what type of minutes. It might go up to 24 and 24. Mm-hmm. But that's where I kind of see this power forward position if they don't just hand it to Keegan Murray. And I don't know if I would even say hand it to if Keegan Murray doesn't just demand with his play that he's a starting power forward moving forward. Mm-hmm. If it's not Keegan, then I really do believe it could be Trey Lyles, it could be Chimezie Metu, it could be Moneke, it could be KZ Okpala. It's just going to depend on what Mike Brown wants to do. And then if we start seeing Keegan just like thrive so much in that role off the bench, number one, he could stay there for longer than people think. But mm-hmm. Number two, it could he just gets so good that you have to play him 32 minutes a night, 34 minutes a night. The only way to do that is to really move him into the starting lineup.
In news that's not news, the Kings are exercising the team option for Davion Mitchell for the 2023-2024 season. Again, news that is not news.
Yeah.
But it is news. So there you have it. Davion Mitchell.
Davion Mitchell, everybody.
Real quick, is that trying to think, is that earlier than they've done in recent years?
No, they have to have it done by, I think it used to be October 30th, but it's right around this time. There's a deadline that's
of the
coming
second
up.
year?
Yeah, okay, so every first round pick signs a 2-year deal with a third and fourth option. So when you draft a guy, he's under contract for 2 years, and then at the tail end of his after his rookie season, the tail end of the summer, you have to exercise a contract for his third year. This time next year, they'll have to exercise a contract for the next year.
Gotcha.
And then you either, in that third summer, you can either extend them or they become a restricted free agent at the end of that fourth year if you extend the qualifying offer.
That's what kind of mixed me up. I always thought they signed a 3-year deal, and then you have to make the team extension for a 4th year. But I didn't know it was a 2-year deal.
Yeah, this is basically where Harry Giles did not get his contract picked up, the 1 year. That was a total shock to so many people that that the Kings didn't pick up his, I want to say, 3rd year. It might have been, they didn't pick up his 4th year. Yeah,
it was just because he didn't play at all the first year, played a little bit the second year, showed something, and they didn't pick up the 4th going into his 3rd year or something like that, right?
Yeah, going into his 3rd year, they didn't pick up his 4th, and that was a shocker to a lot of people. Yeah. So, yeah.
But he's not on a roster, is he?
Not that I know.
No. As of right now, he's not. I mean, but, DeMarcus Cousins isn't on a roster either. Yeah. So.
Well, yeah.
No, I understand what you're saying.
DeMarcus.
Yeah.
Last night saw DeMarcus 20 seconds ago with Pete Youngman.
Yeah.
I'll piggyback off of Kenny's question a little bit because he's asking if KZ Pollock, earned a spot in the rotation. Did anyone earn anything in this first game?
Yeesh. I don't know. Like if you're judging like
Sam Merrill minutes coming our way.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised by Sam Merrill playing pretty substantial minutes with the 3rd unit. I mean, there's so many line changes. I thought that there were some interesting takeaways on that end. I thought that Matthew Dellavedova looked like he may have, if there is a race for a backup for a 3rd point guard, that he looked better than Quinn Cook, and he looked like he had a control of the offense. He was mature and leading the group on the floor. The team played better with him on the court than I thought they did with Quinn Cook. And so if there was something there, I would say he looked pretty solid. I thought, again, the fact that Sam Merrill played before like Kent Bazemore, I thought that was slightly intriguing. Again, Chima Moneke, we keep hearing how much, he's like a favorite of people on the inside and the outside. I thought it was weird that he was with the 4th group and barely played, at the end of the game. And then he got stepped on by Wenyen Gabriel. So I don't know that we can make a ton of determinations about anything. It's just like if I was going to say, hey, who had a better game of the 2 reserve 3rd string point guards, I would say Dellavedova. And again, I think Sam Merrill is a guy that's at least intriguing. He can really shoot the ball, and he also doesn't make any mistakes. So when you leave a preseason game this early, like again, 5-6 days into camp, we've seen other teams turn the ball over like 26, 27 times, and your team turns it over 7. Yeah. That's incredibly impressive. Like everyone was locked in. No one was playing outside of themselves and doing silly things. And I think that was pretty good.
Yeah. I actually, and I agree with what you said earlier about the offense looking a little clunky, the offense itself, but I thought there were a lot of good moments in that game where the ball moved naturally and there was natural pass and relocation from some of these guys and cutting, things of that nature. And those are things that they could probably build on. And that I think is a little bit of a good sign because it was just the flow of the offense and the way these guys are going to play. Like, it wasn't a set. It wasn't, this is what it was just, hey, pass and kick. Oh, dump it off to this guy. I'm going baseline. Let me kick it to the baseline. All this other stuff. Like, I did like seeing that. And I thought that was from the first group all the way down to the end as well.
Yeah, it was unselfish play. I think that's what we saw. We saw guys, like we hear this term, guys playing the right way. That's what it kind of felt like. Everyone was kind of playing the right way. They didn't hit shots, which was an issue. I think they started like 2 of 15 from 3. That wasn't good. But
It
overall,
only got marginally better.
yeah,
The 3-point shooting did not get much better at all.
no. But the second half, I mean, they were so good in the second half where they outscored them like 64-29 or something. And in the third quarter, it was they only gave up 13 points. Fourth quarter, they only gave up 16 points. So, yeah, I think that like the team is building something. It's at least intriguing right now what we're seeing. But of course, we didn't see any like signature plays in that first game, and that's just because they are really just trying to figure each other out still.
Yeah.
Anyone we're not talking enough about?
I mean, I thought like Sabonis had a really really quiet night. And Herter is one of those guys that you just kind of overlook because he doesn't do anything wrong either. He's always in position. He's always staying in front of guys. And then he's always ready to shoot the 3 ball. Yeah, I don't think so. Like, I think that the team is like you can kind of see the first and second unit like form like instantly. And I think the only variable in that first and second unit, well, I'd say there's 2. It's how much does a guy like Trey Lyles play? Just because he's kind of like the 8.5 or 9.5 man, and then is KZ Okpala the guy who's going to start, or will it be someone else? I think outside of that, still we understood the 8 guys coming in, and it's still the 8 guys coming out of that first game that we kind of know are going to be there and play a lot.
Yeah. Hey, James, I'm going to ask you a question that I asked earlier in the day, and we got some mixed reviews about it. After seeing V-Dub, as we like to call him, Wembanyama, last night in his amazing performance in his U.S. debut, 37 points, 7 3-pointers. We were talking about the tanking and, how it's going to be an all-time tank race to get a guy like that. I talked about the depth of this draft coming up. There are so many guys. I think the whole lottery and one of the draft projections I saw was nothing but incoming freshmen. That was the whole projection of the lottery. Like, it's crazy what's coming in here. I asked the question, and I'll go with my question. Damon, you can give your modified one too. Would you rather the Kings make the playoffs this year or have a pick between 5 and 10?
That's tough. Like, I mean, the Kings are up against so much historically, and I don't think they can be bad enough. Like, the only way that you try to tank, it's not to be in the top 5 or 10. The only way that you tank is if you're going to if you're going to be in the running for number 1. Even like number 2, like Scoot Henderson's incredible, and he's a blast to watch. It's tough to completely throw everything away for him. But when you look at Wembanyama, it's just something different. It's something different we haven't seen before. And so, I mean, as someone who's covered this team forever, as somebody who, talks about them all the time, I think I want them to go for the win here. And I told everybody like 2 months ago, I think that there's going to be an extra 5 to 10 wins just sitting there on the ground waiting for you with all of these teams that already they can't pick their jaws off the ground, and they're just going to be trying to lose every single game. And I'll even point to 2 specific games. Like, anytime you got to play in Utah one night and then fly home and play the next day in Sacramento, it's one of the worst road trip, like back-to-backs, road and home back-to-backs. I think that those games are going to be over by the end of the second quarter, and the Kings are going to be able to rest everybody and get home, and like you might as well send half your team home at halftime. Like, hey, go ahead and take another flight. We got the rest of the guys. We'll come back later. Yeah, so I think it's going to be tough. It's going to I think the Kings are going to go for it, and I think that there's going to be a lot of teams who just realize that you can't pass up on the opportunity to try to get this guy.
Yeah.
Well, what if you were guaranteed 1 or 2?
That changes everything.
It does change it. Like, yeah, I'm going to cash it in now.
For me, James, if it was,
I want to be clear. The question: I guarantee you make the playoffs, or I guarantee you get the first or second pick.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm still going 1 and 2.
You can guarantee me number 1.
Sorry, 1 and 2, and it was an easy answer for me for both. So if you told me 5 to 10, I'm taking the playoffs. Like, I'm not even really thinking twice. If you told me 1 or 2, I'm taking 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And I'm the poster child of you have to break the streak. Like, I don't think nobody wants more and is more definitive than I am. But if you told me you get 1 or 2, I might have to take a 1 or 2.
Well, and I'll tell you too, I warned you guys of this, I think, starting last year. Like, the class that just came through and the class before that, those are the COVID kids that lost a ton of games in their junior and senior year of high school. When you're really starting to take off and do things, this next group through is like their freshmen, sophomores, when the real pandemic stuff hit and all the AAU circuit and all their high school games and all that stuff. Did they get impacted by it slightly? Yeah, but some of them were 5'11" and hadn't hit 6'7" yet. So it's this group is going to be the first group that we kind of see how they're a little bit out of it. They're a little bit, this incoming group, not this year, but next year's, where they did get to play like quite a few games in their junior and senior year in high school. And it's just an important development time for players. It really is, where they're learning the game and they're getting comfortable in their bodies and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting. That's why we're seeing like what you're talking about, like 14 freshmen are going to be the top 14 picks.
And real quick, there is no back-to-back Utah home and home, but February 1st, a Wednesday, February 3rd, a Friday, you got what would typically be a little bit of a daunting at San Antonio, at Indiana. Well, I think you can put Sam Merrill in that game. I think you're winning both of those games. Okay. San Antonio, at Indiana. Book it.
Sam Merrill might be starting for the San Antonio Spurs by that time.
Yeah, I mean, that's like some of these
playing 45 minutes a night.
Yeah, some of these teams you don't even know what they're gonna be. I could have sworn there were 2 games this year where the Kings were in Utah one night and had to fly home to play on a
There's
back-to-back.
a Memphis game in between that. So they're in Utah. They go to, or maybe they're at home, but there's a Memphis game in between it.
I got at Utah on January 3rd, and on January 4th the Kings play the Hawks at home. Yeah.
There it is. December 30th, they're at home against Utah, at Memphis. January 3rd, at Utah.
Yeah, but again, the March 20th, they're at Utah on March 20th. March 21st, they're at home against Boston.
Oh, I thought you meant against both games against Utah. No, okay, I got you.
No. What I mean is the road and home, like where you have to fly home after playing Utah. Right. And a lot of those times you just got, blown out by 30 against Utah and you got to go home and try to pick up the pieces. That's just not going to be the case this year. That Jazz team, they look strong right now as far as like they still have some veterans. That they will not have those guys when we get to the end of the season. They won't, especially in March. Like Mike Conley is not going to show up for that March 20th game. So
Mike Conley might not show up for that game on October 19th or whenever they start their season. I don't know when that is.
Yeah.
From the category of they're just like us, I'm glancing over here at the Sports Center hit, and I see a handsome Kevin Agandi and clear 4K or whatever it is. L. Duncan, who's arguably one of the most beautiful human beings on the planet. And then right in the middle, Kevin Hart doing a hit from his house, who looks exactly like James Ham looks at this exact moment. Kevin Hart live on national television. with the slightly pixelated face. The funny thing is I can't hear a thing, but I'm very confident both Kevin and Elle are fake laughing. And I hate that. Like,
who was the fake laugh we got the other day? Was it it was Russell Wilson.
Media laugh. Oh, Russell Wilson talking about Eli Manning. It was like he was right under the microphone when he did that. Like, bro, what are we doing? James would never fake laugh.
Try not to.
Laugher in the Sacramento media you want to call out?
I don't think so.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm sorry, guys. I'm watching, and Kevin Hart froze for a second. I really thought it was just like him. He froze, but he's back.
Kevin Hart freeze. Go back to Kevin Hart freeze. James is going to make it again. James's internet is battling out of this slump he was in for a while. It's had a couple of solid performances here the last few days.
Yeah, and we're not calling it soft focus ham. We're calling it glam shot ham. Thank you. It's a glam shot. Glam shot.
Hey, I'm a premium subscriber, day one premium subscriber, proud to be. Did I notice that there was some tremendous Kings content now that you've got to be a premium subscriber to get?
Oh yeah, I've started gated content. I feel bad about it, but at the same time, gas prices aren't getting any cheaper.
Yeah,
yeah, I got to drive. Yeah. So, so we're gating some content. Not all content will be gated, but some content is getting gated, and that's just I warn people forever that that's what we're gonna do, and that's what we are doing. And I appreciate all the new subscribers, and I really appreciate all the people who stuck around while I didn't gate a bunch of content. And kept paying their monthly dues. It's a fun run, and it's just a different way to do things, and I'm loving it, and I hope the fans out there are loving it too.
If you're a Kings fan, it's worth every penny. Go to thekingsbeat.com, become a premium subscriber. Not only do you get the tremendous content that James Ham is referring to, but you get the invites to the off the record happy hour as well, which I know James and the crew is in the process of planning their next one right now.